Welcome to TTalk, where athletes share their stories. Join us as we explore the profound connections between sports, community, and the human experience.
We're here again with Larry Rout, Tulane All-American from Covington, Louisiana.
Yep.
So Larry, we just want to come together as a T Club, talk about our experiences, and also how we transition from the playing field to real life. So just want to get started with your backstory. So tell me a little bit about your high school career.
Well, in high school, my junior year in high school, playing football, I suffered a broken neck.
Oh, wow.
Coming up, making a tackle on defense, and I end up having to be placed in a halo for 3 months and thought I would probably never play football again. But, I was fortunate enough to come back my senior year.
So how did you kind of make that decision from, having a broken neck to actually having the courage to go out on the field and play again?
Well, it was tough. My mom didn't want me to play. My high school coaches didn't want me to play. But I was so much in love with the game, and I loved competing, and I wanted to play again. So I told my mom that I would switch from defense to offense and play receiver. I told her I wouldn't put my head down again, and I worked really hard. Our team purchased this neck machine because we didn't have anything like that. So I worked it all summer, and I played receiver my senior year with a neck roll.
Wow.
I did a lot of things to try to take precautions to be able to come back. But the doctor, he told me he couldn't say I couldn't play again. He didn't recommend it. But he told me that it had healed completely. So, I wanted to take that chance because I love the game so much. So, my mom finally would sign the papers and let me go. My dad convinced her to do it, and I got a chance to play my senior year.
So what type of accolades did you receive that senior year?
Well, I made all state, all district, all metro, all parish. I led the team in receptions, and we went to the state championship. We didn't win it,
Wow.
but we went to the state championship my senior year. So, all that afforded me an opportunity to be able to play at Tulane.
So what was the recruiting process like, specifically with all the schools, and then how did you come around to Tulane?
Well, I tell you what, because I was coming off a broken neck, I really didn't have a lot of schools pursuing me, especially early on. Tulane was the first school that really pursued me, and I developed a great relationship with Buddy Geis.
Who was the head coach then?
Vince Gibson was the head coach, and they were actually, we already had 2 guys from Covington at Tulane at the time, Lester Lavallee and Curtis Bayham. And so they were familiar with Covington High, and they were recruiting my teammate, Richard Williams, also at the time. So they came to look at Richard, and they saw me play, and, then Coach Geis offered me a scholarship. Tulane was the first school to offer me a scholarship. And then once that happened, other schools started coming on me late.
Okay.
And so it was between Tulane and Arkansas. Lou Holtz was at Arkansas at the time, and there was a businessman that was from Covington who came to my high school and talked to my high school coach. He said he did business in Arkansas. So he got some film from my high school coach, brought it up to Arkansas, and the next week they contacted me. I went up there on an official visit, and so they offered me, but Tulane was on me first, and I wanted my mom to be able to see me play, so I decided to stay home and go to Tulane.
Great. So you came on campus. Was the stadium still there?
No, the stadium was gone. They still had the turf field, but the stadium was gone. I never saw Tulane's old stadium.
Oh. So where were they playing when you got there?
In the Superdome.
In the Superdome.
Yeah.
So you mentioned a couple of people from Covington. Who were some of the people that you were excited to play against when you got to Tulane, or play with?
Well, my former teammates, I was really excited with them. And I know, at the time when I came in, Robert Griffin was the receiver, because I was a receiver when I first got to Tulane. So, Robert Griffin, I'd watched him play. I knew he was a really good receiver. He was coming off an injury. And so I would look forward to playing with him as far as my former teammates that played with me at Covington High.
Gotcha. So you get on campus. What was the daily work schedule? So, did you come in on the summer, or did you come in?
Yeah, I came in the summer. I came in early. I came as soon as I graduated from high school in May. I was on campus working out, and trying to learn that massive playbook that we had. And so that I came up early that summer because I wanted to get out of Covington.
And who was one of the first players that you remember meeting, or coaches?
Well, Buddy Geis was, he was great at recruiting. I developed a great relationship with him, so I was looking forward to working with him to improve my game. And a lot of the players, my homeboys, I hung out with them a lot, and then I met some guys, LaRon Ambrose, who I had seen many times on the recruiting trail, because we were at a lot of the same visits at the same time, and James Alexis, Kevin Tate, a lot of those guys that I had met during the recruiting process. So we all became good friends when we got here.
So, you're on campus. What was it like getting your schedule together and deciding what classes you were going to take?
Well, it was a process. We came in and try and decide what I really wanted to major in. Initially I thought, I wanted to major in business. So I ended up majoring in sports administration because I wanted to do something with sports when I finished college.
Okay. So you're on campus, you start going to practice. When did you realize you could be making an impact on the team?
Well, I tell you what, initially, during the recruiting process, they don't tell you about all these good players they have on the team. You just see the star players and they're leaving, and you figure you're going to come in and start immediately. But I tell you what, the first day I got to practice, I was like, I got to get in the weight room, because trying to get off the line of scrimmage, because I was playing receiver with these cornerbacks who were benching 300 pounds, and it was tough. I immediately knew when I got here that these guys were a lot better than me, and I need to get in the weight room, and I need to work hard and try to improve my game.
Okay. So did you redshirt your first year?
Yes, I was redshirted my first year.
All right. So how much weight did you put on?
I went from I was 180 pounds in high school. So by the time I redshirted that year, I was about 205.
Okay, good.
Next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I put on some weight in the weight room.
So your sophomore year, you played receiver?
My freshman year, my redshirt freshman year, I was a receiver. And then my freshman year, I was a receiver. My redshirt freshman year, I started out as a receiver. We had Wally English was our coach then, so he called me into his office early during camp. He told me a story about this receiver who turned into a tight end when he was coaching at Pittsburgh, when he had Dan Marino as his quarterback. And he told me a story about this guy. They moved him to H-back tight end from receiver, and how he had caught the winning touchdown pass in the national championship game with Dan Marino. And I didn't want to do it at first, but then when he kind of explained the vision of how he was going to use me, I kind of opened up to it, and it turned out to be a good move for me.
Great. So your sophomore year is when you moved from receiver to
Well, really, my
tight end.
redshirt freshman
Your
year.
redshirt freshman year. Okay. So who were some of the defenders as you played in games that you came across that you remember?
I remember playing LSU. I think it was Jeffrey Dale who was guarding me at LSU, and I remember Southern Miss because a guy that I played against from Bogalusa was the safety that was trying to guard me, and I just remember telling him, because he was a year younger than me, that I remember in the game I told him it was going to be a long night for him because he was not going to be able to guard me.
So did you guys beat LSU any of the years you were here?
Yes, my freshman year, we beat them up in Baton Rouge when they were going to the Orange Bowl. That's the game where Reggie Reginelli ran back to punt at the end to win it.
So what was that atmosphere like?
It was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. They were throwing oranges at the team. It was just an unbelievable
Was that before or
feeling.
after y'all won the game?
After they were throwing after we won the game. They were upset, because they were going to the Orange Bowl and they didn't want especially to lose to us. And that was the second year in a row, because when I was getting recruited on my official visit, Tulane beat them 48-7 in the Superdome.
Okay.
And so that was 2 years in a row that we had beaten them, and they were not very happy about it.
So how did that game go? I don't know. I wasn't there. So how did that game go? How were the quarters? What was the atmosphere each quarter like?
It was great because it was a back and forth game. We would go in front, they'd go in front. We had we scored some touchdowns late, and like I said,
Who was your quarterback?
Mike McKay was the quarterback.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was a great atmosphere. It was a great win for Tulane, and Vince Gibson, he slayed the Giant twice. So,
So when y'all went into the fourth quarter, were you guys winning?
it was. I think we were up, and then they scored, and then we scored again at the end to go up and.
So
and
how
win
much
the
time
game.
was on the clock when Reggie pulled
It
that
must have
off?
been about. It was late. It was probably like 3 minutes or something like that left in the
wow.
game when that happened, because they didn't score on the subsequent drive, so we ended up winning the game.
So the defense held too.
Yes.
Okay. Excellent. So then you move into your junior year? We're in junior year now?
Yeah, it was my redshirt sophomore year.
Redshirt. Yeah, I keep. So your redshirt sophomore year.
Mm-hmm.
Who was the coach then? Still Gibson?
It was Wiley
English.
English at that point.
Okay. So how did things transition then? You going into because by this time you're putting the stats up, right?
Yeah, and really my redshirt freshman year, I led the team in receptions.
Okay.
My redshirt freshman year, and that's the year I made All-American.
Okay.
And then my redshirt sophomore year, I led the team in receptions again, and it was like my
So
freshman
you had
year.
two different quarterbacks. You had a quarterback your redshirt freshman year and a different quarterback your.
Yeah. It was that was the year. I had maybe 3 different quarterbacks.
Really?
My redshirt freshman year. We started out with Bubby Brister. I caught my
Okay.
first pass from Bubby Brister against
Okay.
Mississippi State. And then Wiley English started playing his son.
Okay.
And so the second game of the season, we were playing at Ole Miss in the Superdome, and he had pulled Bubby out again and put in John English, and Bubby ended up leaving us
No, wow.
and transferring. So John English was our quarterback, but we were going through some court cases at the time, so every week he had to get an injunction to play.
Really?
Yes.
So what was that about? I don't know anything about that.
Well, apparently he had exhausted his eligibility.
Who?
John English.
John
but
English. How old was he?
He might have been, I don't know, maybe 20, 21 or something
Okay.
like that. But I think he had exhausted his eligibility, but they were saying that he had some injuries or whatever, so he should have had like a medical red shirt. But the NCAA said no, so his dad took him to court. And so he would go to court during the week, get an injunction, play on Saturdays, and so that happened probably the first 4 games of the season.
Really?
Because we beat Florida State that year, and they were ranked in the top 5. We beat them in the Superdome, but then we had to vacate all of those things later because the courts made a final decision about after the 4th game that no, he was not eligible to play.
So what is your understanding of what the eligibility rules were at that time?
Well, I think he had played.
It's a certain amount of semesters.
Yes, he had played a certain amount of semesters. They were trying to say he had a medical redshirt. We thought he was ineligible, because we in the first game of the season he didn't travel with us to Mississippi State, but he came up later and he ended up playing in that game, and everybody on the team was kind of shocked that happened because we understood that he was ineligible to play.
So how did you, as a player, what did you think of the difference between him and Bubby Brister in terms of the eye test? Oh,
well, Bubby was a player. And we had a really, really good team that year too. And I think, if he had stayed, we would have done a lot better that year because it ended up, after Bubby left after the second game, against Ole Miss, we beat Ole Miss in the Dome. Then, the next week we beat Florida State. And we like I said, we had a loaded team. We had a loaded team that year, but we ended up after Bubby left and then John was ineligible to play. We were to our 3rd, 4th team quarterbacks, and and it was a struggle from that on. Then on the rest of the season to score because we had guys that probably wasn't ready to be on the field at that particular time.
So, what were the consequences to John English playing? What were the consequences at the end of the season? What happened?
We had to vacate those. The win against Florida State, we had to vacate that. I think we beat Ole Miss, and we had to vacate those games. So they, all of those first 4 games were losses for us.
Did English continue that your following year?
No. After that, he never played again.
I mean, the dad.
Well, yeah, he was one more year, and then I think he got fired after that.
Gotcha. So, how was your redshirt junior year?
Well, it was we got a new coach. Mac Brown came in.
Okay.
We struggled that year. We ended up going 1-10 because he was implementing his own system and bringing in some new players. Because Wiley English had brought in a lot of junior college players to try to help us win early on. And so Mac went back to recruiting the high school players. So it took a while. You could see we were getting better and better as the years were going on.
Okay. And who was your quarterback your junior and senior year?
Terrence Jones was a quarterback at that point. And, when he came in, when Terrence came in, we had Ken Karcher. I had Ken Karcher like my redshirt sophomore year, and then Terrence came in, and he would play a little because they had him playing all over the place.
Right.
But then when they finally put him at quarterback, it really started clicking.
Okay. And then you move into your senior year. Mm-hmm. What was that? What was some of the highlights from your senior year?
Well, like I said, my redshirt junior year we went 1-10. My senior year I saw a lot of injuries that year too. I had some hamstring injuries. So my senior year, you could see the improvement of the team. I end up. I think that year, my senior year, I might have caught like 29 passes or something like that. Okay. Mark Zeno was emerging at that time. Terrence was emerging. You could see the team gradually getting better. I just wish I had one more year because the next year they ended up going to a bowl game.
Nice. Any bowl games while you were there?
No, none.
Not the first 2 years either?
Not the first 2 years either. And we had pretty good teams. We lost a lot of close games. I think we ended up my freshman year, I think we ended up like 5-6 or something like that, and then we might end up right with the same thing my sophomore year. So, and then my junior year, like I say, we went 1-10. We had the coaching change, and we may have ended up like either 4-6 or 5-6 my senior year that we were here.
Okay. So how was it, as you matured, how was it going to classes and going to practice? What was that like for you? And, just over the course of time, how was that process changing as you matured?
Oh, yeah, it changed a lot. Once I started getting around my junior and senior year, I'm like, I need to buckle down because I need to graduate. And so I went to tutoring a lot, taking probability and statistics was a hard class. And I remember going to class and going to tutoring, and so I just, I'm the first one of my family to graduate from college.
Great.
So I wanted to make sure that I had the ability to graduate. So, I really took school seriously and did what I had to do to be able to graduate on time.
So what was the campus environment like during that time?
Well, it was it was different. It didn't feel like, because we didn't have the stadium on campus, it felt a lot different, I think, than what it feels like now when I come here to a game. Because, Friday nights we were away from campus at a hotel, and then we'd go to the Superdome. But it did seem like game week or whatever when I was here on campus, like it does now.
So what was it like in your classes? So you majored in sports administration, and you went to classes. We know how Tulane can be sometimes. So what was it like for you inside the classrooms?
Well, I tell you what, the professors were tough. I just remember, our coaches used to tell us, when we were going out of town to go play, make sure you inform your professors that you're going out of town. And professors would be like, Mr. Rout, I really don't care. Just make sure you turn my work. So they were tough. It was tough. You had to really buckle down and do what you needed to do to be able to graduate.
And how do you feel that other students received you?
Well, I really didn't have a lot of relationships with other people outside of people that were on the athletic teams. I was real close with basketball players. I was close with a lot of my teammates. I can't say that I really, met a lot of friends outside of that.
Mm-hmm. So were you here during the basketball scandal?
Yes, I was.
So what was your perspective of how that went?
Well, I didn't, we heard rumors about all of this
leading
stuff.
up to it or at that time?
No, like leading up to it. You heard all kinds of rumors going around. And I knew Hot Rod. Hot Rod was like, we were in Monroe Hall, and he had the suite on the end right next to my room.
Okay.
So, I knew him and
what kind of person was Hot Rod?
Hot Rod was cool. He was down with us, and he hung out with us, and he was cool. He was a good guy, and I believe, and he personally said to us that he felt like because he was the guy going to the pros that all of this stuff was kind of pushed towards him,
Right.
And he was like, I didn't have anything to do with it. He was like, why would I do that? And I'm about to be a number one draft choice,
Right.
So, and I believed him. I don't think he willingly participated in stuff like that,
Good.
So I think, I always had a great impression of him. I know he was a hell of a player.
So you went to some of the basketball games.
Oh,
What was
yes.
it like going to basketball games on
great.
campus?
It was great seeing Louisville come in here with the McCray brothers, and Hot Rod was just toast them. I mean, he was unbelievable. And he would tell us, I'm getting 35 tonight, watch. And he would go out there and get it, too. He was a hell of a player. And the atmosphere in there was great. We loved going to those games. games, seeing them play against Louisville and Memphis and all of those good teams that would come in here.
Yes, I feel like that was one of the main things we always kind of did. All the teams supported each other. So you guys were doing that at that time as well.
Right.
That's good. So as the stuff is leading up in basketball, you guys start hearing rumors. What is administration? How's administration moving around? Athletics, how are they moving around?
Well, I really didn't hear a lot of them talking about what was going on. I know amongst the students, people would say, something's going on, and then when it really blew up, because we heard, like I said, we heard the rumors. Like I would ask some of the basketball players, and they was like, "No, I'm not getting any money. I don't know who is, but I'm not getting any money for doing anything illegal."
Right.
And like I said, Hot Rod would always say, "Why would I, take $1,000 and I'm about to be a millionaire?"
Right.
Why would I do that? That makes no sense to him. So. I really didn't hear administration saying anything about it, not to us at least.
Okay. So that kind of happened, the basketball team. So how did you feel like when they determined that we're just going to shut basketball down? What was that like?
It was devastating. We enjoyed going to those games when we were out of season and at the end of our season. We enjoyed going to see basketball there. It was like during the spring, it was like, it was dead because we were used to going to those games and we didn't have them anymore.
Okay. So, you're leading into your senior year. When did you feel like you had a real good shot of making it to the NFL?
Well, my senior year, I had talked to some agents, I had talked to some scouts, and they kind of liked what I was doing, so I expected to get drafted, but I didn't get drafted. I had got early on, I got a letter saying that I may get an opportunity to play in the I think it was the blue-gray game then, but I didn't get an opportunity to do that. So, I went undrafted. The Saints did call me the day after the draft and asked me to come out to David Drive and do a workout. So I went out there, and I thought I had a great workout, because they even told me that afterwards. But then when they measured my height, they didn't like my height. They measured me at like 6 feet and 3/4 of an inch. And, back then they had Hobie Brenner and John Tice, who were 6'7" and 6'8".
Wow.
And they were more like blocking tight ends, and I was more like a receiving tight end. So I was before my time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then what happened after that?
Well, after that, it was tough, because I played football all my life, and I wanted to continue to play, and I entertained, because around that time there was an NFL strike and all of that stuff, and I even got a call to do it, but at that point, I was like, I'm going to move on with my life. So, I started working. So
when you say you started working, what was that?
Well, my first job I got, I was working at a juvenile facility in Thibodeau.
Okay.
One of my high school teammates was working there, and he was like, come out here, they'll hire you. So I went out there, I worked there for a little while, and really didn't, Thibodeau was kind of like Covington. It was a small town, and I was used to New Orleans, so I stayed there for about a year, and then I moved back to New Orleans, and I ended up getting a job selling cars at Bryan Chevrolet. So I did that for a couple of years, and that kind of got old. So I had always said I never wanted to go into education.
Right.
But then I got an offer to work at elementary school.
Okay.
And so I ended up going to work at Murray Henderson Elementary School on the West Bank. And while I was there, I was teaching special education. and going back to school to get certified in special education. And the principal asked me to coach a basketball team at the school, and I started coaching, and I led that basketball team to like 3 championships.
Wow.
And then that coaching bug was on me. And so I did that. I was there. I was at the elementary school probably for about 5 or 6 years, and I was coaching probably my 3rd championship against another coach who actually he worked at Berman Middle School, but he was a coach at Edna Carr High School.
Okay.
So he talked to me. He was like, man, he was like, you know anything about football? I say, I played football. So he was like, man, we got an opening at Edna Carr. And I was like, really? He was like, I'm going to introduce you to he was like, I like what I see you doing out here on this basketball court. I'm going to introduce you to our head coach. So he introduced me to Don Watney over at Edna Carr. And I went in for an interview. He said he was looking for an offensive lineman coach. I had never done that before. So
Right.
He was like, could you coach? I was like, yeah, I can coach.
Of course.
So
Of course.
he ended up hiring me. I didn't know the first thing about coaching offensive linemen.
Right. So what did you do?
So what I did was I called Joe Philbin, who was my position coach at Tulane, who was the offense coordinator and offensive line coach at Harvard.
Okay.
So I called Joe. Joe was like, can you get up here? I was like, yeah. He was like, well, get on the plane and come up here. You're going to stay at my house.
Okay.
And so I flew up for a week. It was during their spring practice. I flew up for a week, and I went to practice with him every day. I was in every meeting with him, and he was like, any drill you see that you like, let me know. And he had a GA with him, and he said, look, whatever he tells you, you make a tape for him. So I came back home with about 10 VHS tapes, and I studied them. And, I went on to become a pretty decent offensive line coach at Edna Carr. I was selected they used to have, at the end of the year, they had a game, the Jefferson Parish versus Orleans Parish.
Right.
I was selected as the offensive line coach every year.
Okay.
I was there. So I just studied, and I went to every clinic. I knew I went to every clinic. If LSU had a clinic, Tulane had a clinic, I went, and I talked with the offensive line coach. I asked them for video, and everybody would give it to me. So I just studied and studied and studied until I knew what I was doing.
Who were some of the players that you coached at Edna Carr and during that Orleans Parish, Jefferson Parish game?
Oh, I coached a lot in fact, Edna Carr's head coach right now, Bryce Brown, was one of my offensive tackles. His compadre who played guard right next to him is Brock Hayes, who is the running back coach for Troy University right now. I coached a lot of guys. Like all of those, the majority of Edna Carr's staff right now was there when I was coaching. So I coached a bunch of those guys.
Excellent. So I love it how you said, I didn't know how to do it, but I went and learned, and I got with somebody that knew what they were doing and figured it out. That's kind of, that type of messaging and networking is kind of what we're trying to do here with T Club, just develop those networks so people will know where they can reach out to. So were there any systems in place from Tulane for you to actually reach out when it was time for you to transition?
I don't think so back then. I know now, man. I look at the things that they're doing now for these kids. I wish we would have had those type of things back then. But I will say, because I had a degree from Tulane, that opened up a lot of doors for me. When people would read that on my resume, and they would give me a second interview. So. But there was not something like they're doing now, because I know I just got something about how they're having this fair for businesses to try to help the kids now. So there was nothing like that when I came out.
Right.
So I'm pleased with what they're doing now with the athletes.
Good. So how often do you get a chance to go back on campus and relate with the athletes or talk to them or anything like that?
Yeah, all the time. Every chance I get, I get to go. When one thing about Coach Fritz, he's very accommodating to ex-players. He wants us around, so I've come to practice probably 3 or 4 times. I've got to speak with the players when I go to practice.
So what's that experience like?
Oh, it's great. I think of all the coaches that have been here after I left, Coach Fritz is the one that's really more open to us being around and hanging around and talking with players. Like I came during the spring. When they were having spring football practice, and you got to go in with your position group, and you got to talk to all of the kids in there, and then the coach, the position coach, he introduced us and had us, talk to the kids about life and about football, about whatever we wanted to talk to them about. So I think that's really a great thing, getting the alumni back in here, so the kids can get to know them, and then, they can get some networking opportunities after they finish.
And how receptive are the kids as a whole to that type of stuff?
They're very receptive. Tulane has great kids. That's one thing, being around them, that I find that they're all great kids. They will talk to you. When I came in, when they had the little I forgot what it was called, but it was in the spring when we came. We went to the Glazer Suite, and we got to meet the team that night, and they had all the guys out there welcoming us as we came in, and they would come up to you, talk to you, and even the experience where we went, where Jim got honored that night. The kids sitting at the tables with us, and we got to talk to them and know them. I just remember Jaquan Jackson talking to Zeno about running routes and all of that stuff. So, I think they're very receptive to what the former athletes have to say.
Excellent. So, speaking of, now they have the NIL stuff, name and image, likeness, that type of stuff is going on. How do you, what was your first impression? Were you for it? Were you against it? How did you feel about that whole system being put in place?
I've always been for it. I just remember when I was here, we couldn't work.
Right.
The only time we could work was during the summer.
Right.
And you couldn't have a job. And I know, coming from my background, I didn't have a lot of money. I didn't, I remember most of the times I was broke, and I didn't have, I didn't have money to go buy anything, because I wasn't the type that was going to ask my mom, because I know she didn't have a whole lot. I was going to just be on my own. So I think it's great. I think, for all of these years, I just remember head coaches having there's a shoe contract for a university, and head coaches getting paid $200,000, and we're out here wearing them, and they can sell our jerseys, and you don't get any money for that. So I'm all for it. I think that I don't agree with major schools saying, you come here, I'll give you this,
Right.
But I think for your name, image, and likeness, if there's a jersey with your name on it,
you're marketing in that way,
you need to be able to get money for that. And I hear people talk about it's ruining the game. I don't think so. I really don't think so, because the big schools back in the days were giving people money under the table all the time anyway.
Right.
I think here's even the playing field. That's why all of the big schools are crying about it right now, because they can monopolize all the great athletes.
Right.
Now athletes can go all over the country, and they can get compensated for their name, image, and likeness.
Right. So that, it's not like everybody is going to get anyway.
Right.
I mean, you have to have something about you that's marketable.
Right.
People need to want to wear your jersey.
Right.
Or they want, you have to have that type of personality.
Yeah.
So the students here at Tulane, have you kind of noticed any things that maybe we can do in terms of NIL that could potentially help out. How do you feel in terms of actually being a participant in that process?
Yeah, well, I think it's good. I know Mike Arata and Jimmy Arno, they're doing a good job. I think Tulane has a great model of how they do things with NIL. You know, I think they came up with that collective, and you know, people can donate and the athletes, you know, and I think they try to give something to almost all of the athletes, not just the stars on the team, you know. So I think their model is working very well, you know, and I support it as much as I can, and I think that, you know, everybody should support it, because I think we got a great group of guys here, and I don't think guys at Tulane are here to get money. You know, I think they understand that they're getting a great education. I think they understand that they're in a great culture and a great atmosphere, and I don't think they're here, you know, for how much money they can get. And I think Tulane does it the right way.
Okay, good. So, you know, we've been doing all of this stuff. We're having all these conversations down memory lane. What are some of the legendary moments that you remember being a part of?
I think one of the biggest ones was when we beat Florida State in the Superdome. You know, I can't remember the exact ranking, but I know they were in the top 5.
Okay.
And they came in here. Wally English was our coach then. And I just remember he put in this new formation that we had never ran before. He called it double wing, and I was playing H-back, and you know, and he moved me around.
What was the score when y'all were getting ready to run this play?
We at the end of the game, the game, I don't know if I think we were up. And it was 31. I think we won.
So y'all
31-28.
playing against a top 5 team, and y'all are beating them.
Yes.
Going into
this, we probably had about 3 minutes left in the game.
Okay.
And so if they get the ball back,
they got a real good chance.
They got a chance of beating us. So all night I had been running this flat route. So, you know, we had where I would go flat and then I would go up the sidelines like a little rail route. So they called the play at the end of the game, and if we get the first down, we run out the clock and we win the game. So I went to the flat and then I took it down the sideline, and I was wide open too. I mean, literally, I was probably about 10 yards behind the defense. And unfortunately, I had to wait on the ball like a punt. But I caught it, and I turned to run, and I got caught, you know, at about the 20, because we were on our own 20, I think.
Oh, wow.
And so it was like a 60-yard pass, and it ended up winning the game. And, you know, I got clowned because I got caught. You know, they were saying I was, you know, but
Who threw the short ball?
John English. So I literally had to turn around and wait on it. You know, I can see the defender running at me, and I had to wait on the ball, and I caught it. And then as soon as I turned around, you know, he tackled me. So, but it was a great win. You know, and it was a back and forth game, because I remember we went up 14-0 on them. We had Curtis Boeheim ran a punt back, and then they drove all the way down on us. And I can't think of his name, intercepted the ball and ran it back 99 yards for a touchdown. So we're up 14-0 in the first quarter, and like everybody's like going crazy. But I just remember Coach said, hey, they're going to come back. And so they get the ball and they throw a beautiful post down the middle of Jesse Hester for like 80 yards, you know. So they came, it was back and forth, and we finally took that lead at the end. And thankfully, we were able to close it out and win the game. So that was a great memory.
Yeah. And what about some of the people that you played with?
Oh, yeah. I played with some great guys. Played with Mark Zeno, Terrence Jones, Elton Vills, you know, Mike Jones. Played with a lot of great players. Donnie Maggs, who played in the NFL, Burnell Dent, who played in the NFL for a lot of years, Lionel Washington, just a lot of great guys. And all these guys are still my friends to this day. That's the great thing about coming here. I've gained friends that have been my friends ever since that day.
Yeah, so Tulane, I mean, you would think that they didn't really have a history of putting players in the NFL, but you just named 4 or 5.
Right. And
Just off your head.
And there's more because
I know.
Eric Thomas was on that team too that went to the NFL. We had from St. Aug linebacker, can't think of his name. Lonnie Marks, Richard Harvey.
Yeah.
We had a bunch of guys on that team went to the NFL.
Okay. Good. Excellent.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard about this. I meant to post it, but Alabama just started an NIL program for
I
former
saw
athletes.
that.
Did you see that?
I saw your post.
Well,
I saw
did
your
post it.
post.
I didn't know if I did it or not.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, I wonder if Tulane's going to do that.
What do you think about that?
I think that would be great.
Yes.
I really
pretty
think that
cool.
would be great, man. Because as former players, you go back and think about that. I'm like, man, what if
Well,
we could have gotten money
we've always
from
thought about doing those legend jerseys
Right.
and that type of thing, and yeah, that money should go to the student athletes that if
Right.
people are still wearing their jerseys.
right.
Yeah, the deal in Alabama is they allow the use of all of the Alabama logo and name and everything for former
Right.
players. So you could use it. You could do a jersey deal or something like that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Hey,
it.
Tulane, look at that. Let's do that.
Get it together. Get it together. Anything? You have any questions about anything?
No, this was great reminiscing. Thank y'all for having me.
Dude, what would you like to see T Club involved with or doing more of?
Well, I think just getting players together, maybe doing something, maybe for homecoming or something where we get former players all to come back in and have a barbecue or something so everybody can catch up and reminisce. I definitely would be open for something like that.
So we're here with Larry Robb. We want to thank him for coming out and giving us some of his experiences here at Tulane, and hopefully the talk will impact some of the student athletes we have now. And of course, we wish you so well with your family and good health leading out to the future.
Thank you. It was good being here and good, like I say, good reminiscing on all these old good times.
All right, Larry. Thank you.
All right, thanks.